Hey, what's up, everyone? This is David Greenspan, welcoming you back to Season 4 of the Mindshare Podcast. Additional podcasts are available at mindshare101.com and on all the major podcast platforms. This week's episode is sponsored by Kits Keep In Touch Systems and the Buzz Conference. Don't miss the Buzz's upcoming event called Disruption, happening on March 30th, 2023. Follow them on Instagram for all the details. And don't forget to check out the marketing suite Kits has to offer. We just won another international award for the best one-to-one marketing available. I promise you, if you are not using Kits for your marketing, you aren't using the best. Be sure to check out our sponsors and what they have to offer on our site at mindshare101.com. Now, we're almost at 100 reviews on iTunes, so please take a moment to rate and leave a review of our show. Go over to ratethispodcast.com/mindshare101. Your name will be entered into a draw to win free swag. And just before we get into this week's show, I've got to share this testimonial we recently received from one of our coach clients, Doreen and Greg Kuchma from Remax Escarpment. They said, "We have been one-to-one coaching with David Greenspan for the last 3 months. Although we may all know the things that we need to do or should be doing, it takes another type of dedication to get things done. David's down-to-earth, no-nonsense, realistic coaching style has allowed us to make the small tweaks we need on the daily to establish routines and systems that work for us and our team. David exudes a contagious energy that really pushes you into action. His personalized approach makes us feel that he is part of our team and is invested in our success. Outside of our calls, we have an open line of communication with David, allowing us to bounce ideas on the fly. We value the relationship we have with him and are looking forward to all that we will continue to accomplish together." Wow. I love that stuff. Our clients are putting in the effort and they are getting the results. As your coach, I will not shy away from providing you with tough feedback that helps you see what you don't, so you can be who you want and have the success that you're looking for. And we'll also get into energized, creative conversations, working through a variety of strategies and different ways to achieve more. Whether you're new or a veteran in the business, our one-to-one coaching is your answer. Inquire with us today. Just go to www.mindshare101.com and click on Coaching. One of our Mindshare Experience Coordinators will be in touch within the hour. Today's episode is number 205. He is the team leader and founder of Connexus Group, a boutique top-producing team with Remax Hallmark Realty in Toronto. He's been selling real estate for 17 years, and prior to that, he had a very colorful past as a semi-professional musician, a nightclub promoter, and a sales manager at IBM Canada. He has spoken on stage to audiences in Vancouver, New England, Toronto, and Las Vegas about his triumph over cancer, his battle with ulcerative colitis, and building his business with both cutting-edge digital marketing trends and age-old traditional lead generation. He was named one of Inman News' 21 most interesting people in real estate back in 2016. He received the Lifetime Achievement Award from Remax in 2019 and the Hallmark Award of Excellence in 2022. He constantly ranks in the top 1% of all realtors in Canada, and his philanthropic efforts include over $30,000 raised for cancer research and over $13,000 raised for the Alzheimer Society. He does this through his recent marquee industry event called Mutual Release, Party with a Purpose. Joining me on this episode of the Mindshare Podcast is one of the most interesting people in real estate, Mr. Ravi Singh. Ravi, welcome to the Mindshare Podcast.
Thanks, David. I feel like you would have been a good hype man for a DJ back in the day with that energy. That was amazing. I love that.
Dude, man, you know what? I'm excited to get in the conversation with you today, man. And, one thing that I guess a lot of people, I'd like to share right off the top to a lot of people is that, ironically enough, you and I both started playing in this sandbox back around the exact same time, about 17 or 18 years ago. Mm-hmm. And over that time, I think that I think both of us have maybe crossed paths here and there together. Our names have sort of come up in passing, but we really didn't know a whole hell of a lot, of each other. And then when it was recommended, like, hey, you got to have Ravi on the show. And then you and I bumped into each other at the Buzz conference and we started talking. It was like a natural fit. And I thought, okay, let's do this.
Yeah.
But for everybody to understand, as I was preparing for the show, I realized I do not know a lot about Ravi.
Yeah.
And as I was reading your bio, my jaw was hitting the floor. And you and I got into a conversation the other day, and check this, guys. And I know you're all going to like laugh and chuckle when I say like I just need 5 minutes, and everybody knows like I talk just a little bit. But Ravi and I ended up spending about 45 minutes on the phone the other day. The conversation was incredible. And we're actually going to almost kind of go through some of that with you all today, because I believe you're about to walk away with an incredibly inspiring, hour that we're about to do here. So Ravi, I'm totally excited to have you, buddy.
Yeah, and likewise, David, like I've heard lots of good things about you from so many different people. I remember that there was a mastermind that was set up by a mutual friend, Asif Khan from Royal Properties. And I remember seeing you there, and, Virginia had talked about, what you guys were doing. And Kits is kind of a household name in anyone doing sort of repeat and referral marketing. So, I'm familiar with what you've built, the brands that you're backing and putting yourself behind. And I appreciate, the invitation to be part of the Mindshare podcast.
Well, thank you, buddy. I thank you. And I certainly have a lot that I want to cover with you today in terms of taking us through your journey. I believe there's a lot there that a lot of people are going to be able to take away and learn from today. So I want to get some background here, right? And of just reading your bio there, I talked about the fact that you used to be in the nightclub industry.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about the fact that you were a semi-professional musician. Mm-hmm. You were in sales at IBM. The first question I got is, what led you to get into real estate?
Yeah. So, in 2005, actually, let me precursor this a little bit. So I've got an interesting kind of childhood where I grew up in, I would say, an upper middle class immigrant family in Scarborough. My family's from the Caribbean of Indian descent. They're Indo-Caribbean from Guyana. And my dad, he was in the real estate commercial banking side of Scotiabank. And he had in his portfolio these developers from Oakville. And, it's really interesting. In 1989, I would have been 9 years old. We went to this really fancy dinner. I remember there was like oil heated with a little flame underneath. And my parents told us that we were moving to Oakville or Mississauga. My mouth dropped. What about my friends? What about this? What about that? Mm-hmm. My dad had taken a job with his developer client. They basically made him an offer he couldn't refuse. And growing up,
that wasn't like one of those like other offers you can't refuse.
Not one of those offers. It was one of those offers where he said, "Listen, we need you on the team," right? So, growing up, I remember at 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, real estate was always a household conversation. My dad would take me on drives and be like, "See that land over there? We're giving that to Hazel McCallie, and she's putting up a school. And see this land over here? There's a guy, he's the president of Green Park, and he's going to build houses here." And, this was kind of like things like plan of subdivision, committee of adjustment. These are just words we heard every day, right? And, certainly my parents were phenomenal parents. I had great mentorship and a lot of time with, good people. Then as I developed and started pursuing life, I did business in school, and I guess you could say I was a natural connector. I was very busy and very active in the what we were talking about the other day, the heyday of Toronto nightlife, where we were throwing parties and, 2,000 people were coming out and 180 people were calling to get on your guest list, and there was no social media. And that was really the place to go out, the place to meet. And, we really enjoyed this. And, when I graduated from school, I took a job because I thought that's what you do. I took a job at IBM, and the job at IBM was sales, but it was what they call activation. Mm-hmm. And activation is basically where you take clients who are inactive and you reach out to them and you say, "I'm your client manager. I want to provide solutions. What are you doing in terms of, software? What are you doing in terms of automation?" And these are the conversations that I was having. But honestly, David, I had felt no substance, and I felt no true, impact from the work I was doing. And at the time, I was dating a girl who was an executive assistant at Colliers. And, Angela is my wife now. She said, "Well, Rav, you'd make a great realtor." A lot of inexperience, a lot of green, but I kind of was like, well, I don't know.
Hold on. Sorry. This is a moment or I don't know if she's listening right now, but do we
Yeah.
say, honey, you were right?
Yeah,
We just got to throw that in there for you, bro. Some brownie points, right? I got you.
100%.
Okay. Sorry, keep going.
So Andrew's very right? If it was my calling, right? And this was set up against the backdrop of me being very frustrated. And I know we're going to talk a little bit about my health journey. But at the time I was really at my darkest in terms of my own personal physical health. And, I really wasn't feeling any kind of sense of purpose at IBM. I was making decent money. I was enjoying the throwing parties and being sort of, the man about town in some respect. But I really wanted to figure out where I was going with my life. And, when she suggested this, I remember this was back in the open book, choose your multiple choice, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 licensing. Right. I got 100 on the first 2 exams. And then as I was getting the third one done, I had already had pipeline. Like David, I didn't.
Was that pipeline based on the network that you developed through the music industry or through the nightclub industry?
Yeah. So, everybody that I knew was, let's just say, late 20s, early 30s, or mid 20s. And they were all sort of branching out, moving out from home, starting to find where they wanted to live, what they wanted to do. I kid you not. My first deal.
I was about to ask you that. What did you do for that? What was the first thing you did? Like even before the first deal. Let me ask you this, just before you get to that, because I'm going to progressionally, right? Like you got your license, you did well, you got the network, which is beautiful.
Yeah.
What was the first thing you did when you actually got licensed? Like, was it like build a brand, build a logo, get a website? Like, what did you start telling people? Yo, I'm in real estate.
So, David, I really believed in the power of visibility.
We call that, Ravi, we call that mind share.
Mind share. Right?
I like that. You should use that.
I believed in mind share. All right. I believed that there was no one that I knew who shouldn't be giving me the opportunity to help them with real estate. And it just so happened that because of, my experience, I knew a lot of people. That when I was kind of getting my license and not being done, I was really trying to figure out where I was going to hang my hat, where I was going to work, where would make sense for me as a real estate agent. And, naturally I gravitated towards a brand that was a household name, happy to be part of the RE/MAX organization today. And, I literally went out with cards, a stack of cards, even, right upon licensing, and literally at the party was giving them out to all my friends that were there. I was like, guys, like this, and this is my thing. And I do want to just tell an interesting story. So, the night before my last exam, I was sitting down at District Nightclub, which was at the corner of Richmond and Peter. All right. Mm-hmm, it's now a building that's owned by Allied. And I sentimentally, I go and I sit in my quiet time and have coffee in that building sometimes. I love that building. And, I was sitting down and staggers over to me, a friend, his name's Al. He says, Rav, like, what are you doing, man? Like, I heard you left IBM and, what are you doing with your life? And I said, well, Al, funny you say that. Like, I'm getting my real estate license. And as a matter of fact, I write my last exam tomorrow. And he says to me, so this is interesting. Can you help me buy a condo? And I said, yeah, of course. I didn't know anything.
Yeah. Well, what do you do? You're like, sure. But you can't say no.
If you get an order, you fill the order. You figure out how to,
I could do that.
Right? Of course I could do that, right? So he says, okay, well, there's this property that I want to see. When can I see it with you? So literally the day I, finally was licensed to sell real estate, I took him to this showing. It was at 169 John Street, which is a Harhay property at John and Queen. And it was an assignment. It was the first deal I ever did. I was with this legend from Bradlam Realty, Robin Pope, and he kind of guided me through the whole thing. And that was really the start of my career. That was my first deal. Second was a referral from, it was my dad's boss relocating from New York to Toronto. And I knew nothing, David. And he said, hey, can you show me homes? I showed him everything in the water from Ajax to Oakville, like everything. Like we looked at houses for like 4 months, right? But he was patient and he understood, I'm kind of giving my colleague's son a chance to, guide me through. It wasn't until 2008 when the market really started shifting that I actually started working my business like a business. So I got licensed in 2005. 2008, I was going to Miami for a trip in March. I had just double-ended a fixer-upper that was a great flip and sell. I sold it from my client to a contractor friend, and then I got a mutual release. And you know what? I was crushed. I was like, "What's going on?" This happened at the same time. My father passed away. This was March. Instead of collecting that sum of $18,000, I had written a mutual release and walked away from that. And also I had no financial plan. Right. So in my mind, I had already earned this money that had never happened. So I had already spent half of it too, right? Failing forward, failing. And then in 2008, I just want to tell you, I listed another property when I first expired. And I really realized I didn't know much of anything. I knew people, but I had to start learning. I had to start training. I had to start growing. I had to start treating this like a business. I had to have a financial plan and really figuring out, how am I going to carve this out?
Okay, so you get into the business, you've got a network, you start connecting with your network right off the hop. And I love that. And I call it the shameless plug, but I don't see that in a bad way. Like, everybody I talk to, I told them exactly what I do, right? And they have to know. And I think that people need to not shy away from being able to do that. Now, do it with taste, do it properly, etc. But you did that. Things are going okay, you think, but they're not going the same way they are now because you didn't know then what you do know now. Question I have for you is a sort of almost a rapid fire. Does most of your business come from your network that you have now, or is it from like total random strangers?
90 to 95% repeat referral.
See, okay, perfect. Now, in that time as well, as you've got this, great network, you're marketing, you understand, and again, all jokes aside, you're building the mind share, you're building up your brand, you're doing these things. You built a team as well.
Yes.
Right. And did you build the team right off the top? And again, not to get into the depths of like the construction of the team and everything else, because I want to go somewhere else right now. But, what was the first move towards building the team? And at like what point did you realize like it's time to start doing that? Was it in year 1, year 5?
Very simple for me. First was coach and mentor. Second was systems. Third was assistant.
Hold on, say that first part again. Coach and mentor.
Yeah.
And then coach and mentor. I like that.
First, coach and mentor. Second, build out all your systems. Third, hire an administrator or assistant. Fourth, retain great talented agents who can help you with the overflow business. 5, keep building upon that and explore growth and scale.
Okay. Outside of my jokes again, do that one more time for us. Give us the 5, please. I'm sorry.
Very simple. Number 1, get yourself a solid coach and mentors, models you can build off of. Number 2, as you start earning more money, you need to delegate the administrative activities. Number 3, find incredible talent that can actually run with the ball. So if you're now the quarterback, you want to pass it to somebody who can hit the end zone. And then as you build that, figure out what skill and success looks like for you.
Okay, good. I hope everybody just marked that one down. And if you did not, you're going to have to come back on Friday when this goes live to all the major platforms and tune back in and take notes. But buckle up because we're about to go deep here. Just again, before we do that, when we talk about building the team, I guess one of the other things I might ask you is by having a team, and we know, the industry knows that you, Ravi Singh, have built a successful real estate business. I mean, it's a known fact. I congratulate you on that. You've got a great team that's out there. I imagine that you got some awesome culture going on. What would you say is the most important trait that you need to have as a leader to continue to maintain and build upon this successful team that you've got?
David, I call it servant leadership. And my role is to wake up and understand that the shareholders in my business, which are my family and my team, have to eat well. And that could mean many different things, but really and truly, the most important thing is to prioritize their need. And then from that, figuring out all the tools, resources, systems that they need in order to succeed. And not just succeed, but do better than any other place that they could be. It's an open market. Anybody could choose to be anywhere. If they're choosing to be with me, I have to understand that they are now my customer, and I have to treat them with that level of respect and appreciation and gratitude.
Wicked. Wicked little nugget right there. Now, we're in the business. We're building up. We're learning. We are, facing a whole bunch of challenges out there, but we are not giving up. We are continuing to do what we need to do to grow, having successes, building a team. Ravi, you told me the other day that in conjunction with doing all of that, you were battling a terminal illness. And I say terminal.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us more about that. What was going on?
Yeah. So in 2005, when I had prior to 2005, 2004, when I had graduated from school and kind of, figuring out life, I had started to develop a sensitive stomach, right? That's the easiest way to describe it. And that development of a sensitive stomach just kept getting worse and worse. And in Canada, we have universal healthcare, which I'm a big advocate and proponent of. But it took some time. It took about a year's time to actually go through the medical system, to have discovery, to meet with the right specialists. And in 2005, I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis. The doctor who diagnosed me, his name was Dr. Edward Lin, and he was at Rouge Health. He was at Centenary, and he said, Ravi, you're losing a lot of weight. And to illustrate this, I had shrunken down at that time to about 130 pounds. Right now, I'm 200 and plus, right? He's like, you're losing a lot of weight, and your colitis seems to be very aggressive. He had put me on a couple different medications, all failing. He said, try this, and we'll see how it goes for the next month. It was incredibly horrible. It was called Azicol. Then he said, try this. We tried this for a month. It was called Imurant, incredibly bad. He did another colonoscopy. Colonoscopy is when you scope up the, bum. And he's like, Ravi, your colitis keeps getting worse. He said, I'm going to suggest that you go on a drug called prednisone. Prednisone is this incredibly powerful corticosteroid. And he said, in addition to that, I'm very alarmed by what I see in this scope. Your colitis seems to be sort of above my pay grade. I'm referring you to Mount Sinai. By this time, it was about 120, maybe 115 pounds. The day I took the prednisone, I felt complete 180. It's like the next day you wake up, you don't have a sensitive stomach, you have no bowel movements, you have no urgency, you feel energy. It's just this strange normality to your life. I was living in a state of complete fatigue, extreme exhaustion, zero nutrition every day. I had just gotten used to it. Angela, who I was dating at the time, we used to drive home from the nightclubs, and I would drive home with my feet up on the dash, just with this idea that gravity might keep me from having to, go to the bathroom. And, nowhere's open to go to the bathroom at 4 a.m. or 3 a.m, right? So long story short, this was going on. Still very abundant, very positive, but I was really struggling. So I meet with Dr. Gordon Greenberg at Mount Sinai. And this is in the summer of 2006. By this time, I'm probably 110 pounds or so. Just super frail, extremely weak. And I talked about this at Buzz, David, and I said, on stage, I said to everybody, I can vividly remember the day. It was in the summertime. And I'm there, Angela's there, my mom and dad are there, my sister's there, and the doctor's across on the other side of the table. And, we've done this additional scope. And he says to me these words. He says, Mr. Singh, I've been practicing gastrointestinal medicine for 30 years. In those 30 years, I can count on one hand the amount of ulcerative colitis patients that have had as an aggressive case as yours. It is unwise for me to say that you will live past 35 without developing colon cancer. Furthermore, it's unlikely that you'll make your 40th birthday. He says, with all due respect, there's a brand new radical drug called Remicade, And I could probably get you onto that, but I feel as though it might be an umbrella in a hurricane. He says all this, and then he says, but there is a curative operation. And what do I say? I say, okay, I'll take door number 2. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He says, Mr. Singh, this curative operation is a 2-part procedure. It's called the pelvic pouch procedure. He says, we cut you open and we remove 6 feet of your colon, keeping just 1 inch. From that 1 inch, we stretch you out and create something called a J pouch. With that J pouch, you will basically be able to function as a normal person. But while that J pouch is healing, you'll wear something called a colostomy bag, which is basically a bag on your tummy. And that bag will be how you expel waste. And we plan for the J pouch to heal and then remove the bag 6 months later. But understand that there is a concern that if the J pouch doesn't take, you'll wear the bag for the rest of your life. Now, I'm a 25-year-old, 26 at this time.
Oh, man.
It's basically certain death or this procedure. Now, he was a salesman thinking back because he framed up this idea of pelvic pouch procedure against the worst possible situation.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end, because we learn in sales, you give a nibble at the end to finalize the close. He says, by the way, the only doctor in the world who does, there's 2 now, the only doctor in the world who does this procedure laparoscopically is available to do your operation, and we'd really like to book you in with her as soon as possible. So, David, it's really interesting. And I just realized now, November 2nd is actually the date of my operation.
No.
I didn't even remember until right now.
Wow. And for those of you listening on the audio right now, as we are recording this live today is November 2nd.
I can't believe this. I had actually.
God.
This is probably the first year that
Dude, the hairs are standing up on my arms right now.
This is probably the first year that I've woken up in the morning and not had the memory jog that it was November 2nd. I drove down to Mount Sinai with my family. We got up and I got into the locker room. I remember my dad saying to me, he said, it's just really you and your surgeon. As I got wheeled into the operating room, I had just written a deal for my dad's boss, the guy that I was telling you about, while they're administering the general anesthetic into my wrist and, gassing me up for this operation.
This guy's writing deals at the same time. I love you, bro.
Well, they got to talk to you about something, right? Take your mind off what's happening. They were asking me all this stuff about, this purchase that had just happened. It just so happened to be in Oakville. And as I woke up, a really interesting thing for anybody who hasn't had general anesthetic, you don't know any time has passed. You wake up and it could be later. You don't know. So I wake up and I found out that I've been in a 6-hour marathon of a surgery. And at Mount Sinai, your family goes down to the main floor and there's this waiting room. And there's this, at the time, there was this little old lady who sits there as a volunteer. And when the call comes from the surgeon, she looks up and she goes, sing. And it's like this, literally this movie happening. And my parents get the call, and Angela's there 6 hours later. A couple of my cousins, I think, were there too, that, I've been taken to what they call takedown. David, I'll tell you, if you ever are in a situation where you have to look at the staff of any of these hospitals from the inside as a patient, you gain so much appreciation for what nurses, custodians, residents, doctors do. And I'll tell you, the surgery itself, it was, and there's 2 parts, but that first part, you're knocked out. It's the recovery and the bounce back that is, it tries every part of your soul.
Okay, here. When we were talking the other day, you had mentioned that kind of your previous life, let's say, when you were, going through your musician days.
Yep.
That you had a mentor
Mm-hmm.
who had, and I'm going to see if I'm wording this the way you did the other day. I loved it, but who leveraged old generational storytelling
Yes.
to teach you.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say, Ravi, that helped you work through the mindset of what you were going through?
Undoubtedly. I mean, so the background story here prior to, this bout with colitis and exploring careers. And so when I graduated high school, I got an Ontario Arts Council scholarship. And at the time, I was learning music from my guru, from Pandit Sharda Sahai, who's the fifth generation leader of what's called the Banaras Baj, or the Banaras Gharana of tabla. He's like royalty for Indian music. He's the descendant of the founder. And when I got this scholarship, I got this grant and I lived with him. And when I say lived with him, I lived with him in his home in Southall, which is off Ealing Broadway in London, England. And we lived like family. He mentored me, he apprenticed me, and I lived like what they would call a shishya, or a disciple. And we learned a lot of music. We explored creativity. We explored problem solving. We explored active listening. But we learned so much above and beyond that. My guru, he was a mentor to me in life about how life is looked at from the lens of a true master. When he decided he was going to perform at the level that he did, he started practicing 16 hours a day to build up his capacity and his mastery of his craft. His father and 5 members of his family all passed away when he was a young child. And he apprenticed under his maternal uncle. And he was really he's like a mythological character, David. He was long hair, tall. He was this older grandfather, person in my life. And, you treat this person with so much respect and admiration. It was a special gift to have that time with him. And, I was telling you the other day, he had these little nuances, or these little tales, or these little stories that he would tell you. And I was telling you one that stuck with me, and it stuck with me even to now. He said,
Sure, yeah, please share that with us.
Yeah, he says, I like this one. He says, when a tree is bearing its largest fruit, it must humbly bend its branches. If the tree stands proud, then all the fruit falls to the ground and rots. And, that's just one example of the type of stories that he would tell me. And, the message there is, when you get to success, stay humble, right? When you get to success, understand that, arrogance or, cockiness or brash, it's not your purpose, right? Bend humbly.
When shitty things happen, most people really tend to give up. Most people get into a very negative place. I think that is, unfortunately, human nature for people to feel that way. Here you are transitioning into this new career. You're building it up. I mean, dude, you're doing a deal or writing something up while you're literally about to go under. Strong, mentally fortitude, all the stuff that you really need to be able to survive anything. But how did you deal with all of this to be able to come out on the other side in a positive manner, with what you were going through, thinking, I'm building up the successful career. Things are going well. I know I'm dealing with this illness. I'm going through all this stuff. Oh my God, I got to go for this crazy surgery. I've just been given advice or I'm not going to make it that long. What advice do you have for anybody that's going through tough times of any sort?
Surround yourself with the right people. That's the first piece of advice that I think is critical. And I'll tell you, David, in my entire life, I've only had one why me moment. Only one it's not fair moment. And I was, after the operation in 2006, we had some complications. And I was sitting on a stretcher in Mount Sinai going into emergency on a Saturday night. And this was probably maybe January and of 2007. And I just sat there and I'm just like fed up, right? The bag wasn't working. I got distended. I had to go to the Emerge. This is my third time back in Emerge. And I looked at Ange, my wife, and, I'm going to give her credit again here. I say, it's not fair. Like, why does this have to happen to me? And she says, how dare you? She says, guess what? You're going to be okay. And it just so happens, my client, a friend of my in-laws, their daughter, Allison De Silva. And for anybody looking, Allison De Silva is part of Children's Hospital Foundation. We called her Ali. She died that day. She had just left Sick Kids Hospital. She went to Toronto General. She had tons of complications. Michelle, my sister-in-law, was there visiting Ali while I was complaining about being emergency. And, Anne said, you don't get to say, why me, when someone else we know is actually going to die today after spending 10 to 18 in Sick Kids Hospital. She's 18 and a half. And today is the day that she's not going to make it. So, you don't get to say, why me? And that perspective, that glass half full, that sort of optimism, I kind of need, sometimes you need the tough talk. And you know what? You don't need pity. You need people to say, hey, you know what? Why not you? Whatever you're going through, it's going to happen. And then the second thing on that whole why not you is, why not you? Just be great.
Did you read my post this morning about that? Keep going. I was like, wait a second. This is just okay. Sorry, keep going.
But why not you? Someone's going to have to deal with this or that or this or that. And then also, why not you? Why not just be great? Why not just someone's going to be number one? Someone's going to write a book. Someone's going to run a 40K. Someone's going to raise great kids. Someone's going to lead a team. Someone's going to, why not you?
I couldn't agree more with that. And I think for everybody to really take that in, and as I just asked Ravi, how do any of us stay positive through, the tough times? And, you just said it. You don't need to pity yourself. There is somebody else out there that is most likely going through something worse, and as long as you're strong enough mentally, you can pull yourself through. And, if you're not, lean on somebody who is. And the way you had Angela there, and all jokes aside for the kudos that we're giving to Angela today, I love the fact that she did that to you. She basically poked you in the forehead and said, dude, enough.
Yeah.
Man, you've got this you exude this positivity, and it's authentic, it's genuine, it's real. There's a backstory to back it up. And you came out the other side. Mm-hmm. Like, you came out the other side. You survived this thing, man. And you did it by only having, let's say, one why me moment. Mm-hmm. That is huge. And so with all this positivity, you beat colitis, right? You beat it, which congratulations, like big congratulations to you. You've built a successful real estate business. Again, another big congratulations. At the same time, you've managed to get married, right? Because the whole marriage thing happened in between all of this stuff. Go figure. This guy's battling a terminal illness, building up a business, and says, hey, let's go get married. Yeah. And she says yes. So she must believe in you, right? Which is, and I say this in a nice way, in a warm-hearted way. But you know what? All of a sudden, a curveball gets thrown.
Yeah. So,
well, tell us about the curveball, because, like, again, there goes the hairs on my arms again. I'm.
David. One of the medications that I took for the colitis has been discontinued. They don't give it out anymore, and unfortunately, one of the side effects of that medication is cancer. So at 26, I had this colitis situation, and at 36, I was diagnosed with cancer. And you know what?
Okay, what the fuck? Like, how did you deal with that?
I don't know if it's a defense mechanism, but the day I got the diagnosis, I went about my day. I had showings.
Like, I feel like I would have taken a gun and just started shooting at the sky and saying like, screw off, like enough.
You know what? I actually, I assumed the best. And you know what? I don't know if it's a mindset thing. I don't know if it's a naivete. I don't know. I just assumed that everything would be okay. And it's interesting. Ironically, my counterpart during that bout with colitis, the day that Ali died, sitting on the emerge, she was the one that had a hard time. And we left the doctor's office, Dr. Spodak, and she was in tears. She was devastated, and she said, it's not fair. She said, what, like, you've had your share, you've carried your burden, you've had your cross to bear, and it's not fair. And I looked at her and I said, how dare you? And I said, listen, whatever this is one moment in a very, very, very long and colorful life, and we're going to just solve the problem. I have this idea in my head, and when other people are looking at problems, I'm looking for solutions. And there's no benefit to sitting around and being sad or being pitiful or being upset. There's something to be said for seeking out the right help, getting the right support. And you know what? It's done me well with everything that I faced in life. And you know what? This year I will be 7 years cancer free.
Hey. Congratulations, buddy.
Appreciate that.
I appreciate you sharing this. Okay. Because again, I'm going to reiterate this to every single person that's listening right now. And I'm grateful for every single one of you. I tell you guys that all the time. And I will say that again. I am grateful. Thank you for tuning in. Please understand, shit happens. Okay. Shit happens. And we are not talking about losing a deal right now. We are not talking about having our, losing a hockey game, anything. We're talking about life. We're talking about health. And I don't know if you guys just picked it up, but I'm going to tell you straight up, I just picked it up, that the minute this guy was diagnosed, and I say this guy, Ravi, I'm sorry, I'm talking with everybody at the moment.
Yeah.
The first thing I just took from you was that your mindset was that of positivity. So talk to me about for a moment, talk to me about choices, talk to me about the pursuit of happiness, because that is something that we all have. We are all empowered with that. It's whether we choose to leverage it or not.
And, David, on that topic of happiness, we really have control over that. And I say that because we get to wake up in the morning and make choices. And you know what? We get to choose whether we're sad or upset because of the rain, or upset because of the traffic, or upset because you got a difficult client, or upset because you have to do this, or you get to say, I get to do this. I get to get in traffic. I get to get in my nice car. I get to, deal with these clients that can generate business. Like, look,
right there.
That's
a paradigm shift right there.
That's all, right? You get to choose. It's your perspective. And you know what? Nobody has become great. No one has been able to live an abundant life. No one has been able to inspire others by complaining. What do you get by complaining? I don't think that, I'm just regular. And yes, I've had colitis and cancer. I'm just another person who has had challenges and bumps along the way. If there's a lesson from, how I've dealt with it, I suppose the lesson would be, so what? Move on. Dust the dirt off your shoulders, roll up your sleeves, and understand that, as much as you might have on your plate, you get to choose whether you're going to be grateful, take action, find solutions, or just sit there, be complacent, find problems, and complain.
I would say, who have you become today? But I think it's evident, and we're getting to experience that right now. Who you've become today, from what you went through to where you are, the way you think and the way you've inspired yourself. It's being screamed loud right now from a rooftop. I'm inspired, and I know people tuned in right now are inspired. And I think that everybody who's listening to this message, you've got to put yourself in, not even just Ravi's shoes, stay in your own shoes, but take every situation, understand what he just said. You can choose how you want to see the situation. You can choose to be upset about the traffic or understand that you get to be in traffic. There are people who do not have that luxury. And you might look and say, traffic luxury? Yeah, think about it. You may not be able to get into a car, drive a car, go anywhere because you cannot physically do it. How would you feel then? Would you want to be in traffic? I certainly would.
There you go.
Just powerful, brother. Now you've taken, again, the successes, you've taken the life experiences, you've taken the learnings, and you've put it into a lot of really good stuff. You tell us about your philanthropic initiatives. I mean, you've got the party, which you raise awareness for Alzheimer's. You raise money for cancer. I put it out there and say, why are you doing all this? I mean, I'll throw it out there just for anybody who's still very like one track minded, like business bit. Like, is there a business benefit to all this stuff? Is this even about business? Like, what's the deal with this stuff? Talking about time, talking about efforts, talking about the whys, giving back, reciprocity.
Yeah. So, I believe that we're most happy, or we're most sort of in a state of success when we do two things: when we grow and when we give. And growth can be in so many different ways. Growth can be, working towards a goal, working towards, some sort of achievement. It could be working out. It could be reading, all these things. But giving, for me, I've really realized my privilege. I realized my blessings in my life, the abundance in my life. I'm also mindful that I'm a capitalist. I don't believe in big government. I believe we have to take custody of our communities, and we have to give back. If there's an opportunity to give, that's our divine purpose. And then, in addition to that, anybody who has that mindset, they'll tell you this: you don't look for it, but somehow the universe has a way of patting you on the back, right? I have won the health lottery twice. I've got a beautiful business. I've got a beautiful life. I've got two phenomenally sweet kids. I've got my good share of, goodness in my life. And, I feel thankful for it. And I'm also mindful that somehow, I found ways to give back. We actually, and just on that topic of being surrounded by the right people, When I did the run and I said I originally said I wanted to raise $5,000. Friend of mine, another realtor, his name is Ralph Ciencio. He says, "You? Come on, man! You know everybody." So
push your buttons a little bit.
Let's raise 100,000.
Yeah.
And when you start thinking big, and you surround yourself with other people who think big, you inspire other people to think big too.
I love that. That's a wicked little line right there. You've got the mutual release party with a purpose.
Yeah.
Is that an annual initiative?
So this is really interesting.
Just give us a quick snapshot, and this way, hopefully, we can even encourage some people to get involved if there's opportunities for that.
Yeah, we're going to do one in the spring and one at the end of summer every year, and every year we're going to try to outdo what we did the last year. So we've raised some good money. It's at a great bar downtown called Saluna that a friend of mine owns a piece of, and it's a chance to have fun. And it's called mutual release because after the pandemic, everybody needs to just release a little bit.
Yeah, totally, man. So I would suggest everybody stay tuned with Ravi to find out more about that. But you also just mentioned that you won the health battle, and I mean, you certainly have, man. You kicked its ass. I love it. I really need to just, again, remind everybody, to me, my takeaway on this was that was so much of a mental game. And I don't think people understand how important the mental game is. Now, along with that, you've also won some incredible awards. You've been recognized in some great ways. And one of the ones that we mentioned off here was the top 1% of realtors in Canada. And I wanted to take just a very brief moment to go, like, what does the 1% represent? Because I think that, we got a lot of folks that use the word 1%. I know in yours, it's a very legit recognition. So I want to differentiate between like the 1% that like the fly-by-nights use and like the 1% that's actually earned in the regard that you've earned it.
Yeah. So, it's a GCI metric. So we're looking at gross commission income. And certainly, we've done well, as many people have done in the last year. And I'm going to offer one sort of idea on this metric, David.
Yeah.
It's something that we all put in our bios and we talk about. And I'm going to suggest that we as an industry use it, but don't abuse it.
There you go. I like that.
Because you could spend $1 million and make $1,001, and you've made $1,001 GCI. It doesn't mean much of anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. Well, that's why I say let's lay this one out. At least explain to people what it's about. I've seen some funny stuff as people use 1%, but I also think that the folks that actually earn it in the regard that it's being earned, it's important to really differentiate between that. Now, in getting you to that path,
yep.
We talk about cutting edge digital marketing trends, age old traditional lead generation. This is right up my alley. Now, when we talk about building mind share, the marketing, the strategies, and how people go out there and really make a shit ton more money. Let's be serious, because I love the money as well, right? What are you doing to consistently build mind share to grow your business? Talk to me about some of these strategies for a moment. I know we could spend hours talking about this stuff. I could dive in right into it, but I want to bring some of this to light because, again, cutting edge digital trends, age old traditional lead generation.
Yes.
So you're doing a lot of what we like to do, of like that bridging the gap between the online and the offline, the new school and the old school. There's a place for all of it.
Yes.
What do you say to the agents that are like one track minded of like, I'm just going to be doing, online lead gen, or I'm just going to do social media, or I'm just going to focus on making videos, but not want to do the phone calls? What do you say to the person who's just door knocking and not leveraging social media? Like, tell me what you guys are doing, how you're rocking all this stuff.
So our business is focused on demographic farming.
Mm-hmm.
We focus on, upwardly mobile young professional families. And I believe that our business, if anybody says, Rev, how do I build a business like yours?
Mm-hmm.
Our team is called Connexus Group. And the whole idea of connecting is at the heart of what we do. We believe you have to reach out to the people around you 30 times a year to build mind share and be top of mind. And that could be one of a billion things. It just so happens that a lot of the people in our demographic that we farm and we market to are on social media. Creating Instagram reels, creating digital content, creating, bomb videos with CMAs, creating, video, creating interviews, creating all these things that we're doing to talk about real estate and be top of mind to real estate. It's the exact same thing as anybody else that was doing it, 20 years ago. It's just a different tool. We're still talking about interest rates. We're still talking about government policy. We're still talking about what your neighbor sold for. We're still talking about, if you're looking for an investment property, we're still talking about cap rates. We're talking about all these things. We're just using new microphones.
Yet you're still connecting with people, talking to your clients on the phone. You said 30 times a year you're touching people. You're still getting together with people. Yeah, I imagine from your days in the nightclub industry, you're networking, your in-person events. You put these things on for people. You bring people together.
And everything that we do social has to become brick and mortar. It has to become face to face. And people get lost
online to offline, offline to online.
And people get lost in likes. People get lost in views. Like, give me a break. Like that is all that is that's a means to an end, right? You want to do that to then create a face-to-face appointment with a prospective buyer or seller. Come on.
And that's how you get in your market share.
Yep.
So what about time? I mean, where do you find the time for all this stuff? You've got a family at home. You've got your kids, your beautiful wife. Do you time block? How do you leverage time?
So I'm not the best at time blocking, but I'm the best at having an undone list. And I have
An undone list.
Yeah. So what I mean by that is anything that is a necessity, I get it off the undone list. So, it's a
Okay.
productivity tool where you say, look, these are the things that have to get done. And then also I'm going to offer up something that people might raise their eyebrow at, but the reality is there's time for anything you want to do. You just
I
have
agree
to be
with you.
efficient.
1,000,000% I agree with that.
You have to be efficient. And, I don't have a busy life. I have a productive life.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. Now, you also mentioned to me that your ladder to success will be different than anybody else's. And quite frankly, everybody's is different. So what do you mean by ladder? And how do you, Ravi, define success?
So, my company, Remax, is very good at top 100, top 50, top teams, top agent. The industry is very good at that. And I kind of got lost in that probably 2017, 2018. I'm like, oh, I need to break the top 25. Oh, I need to break the top 20. And I realized none of that really matters. What matters is, what does your personal wealth look like? What does your personal health and well-being look like? What impact are you making on others? Are you reaching out and finding 5 people around you and bringing them up as well? How are you growing as an individual? What does your time look like in terms of the ability to spend with your loved ones, the people you care about? And, the nice thing about my business, it gives me an excuse to reach out to everybody who owns a home that is in my circle. So, I find a lot of joy in that. My epitaph will read someone who made it count, as someone who was genuinely interested in others.
I love it, man. Talk about genuine. So here, end of the day, how do you know it's been a successful day for you?
Good question. So that's a tough one because I'm hard on myself. And, I think anybody who's a quote unquote top producer will always say you could have done a better day. You know what I mean, David? It's
Yep.
like, I had a good day.
That's us. Kevin Hart said this in his book, and I've repeated this one many times, but that's us always pushing the goalpost out further.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, okay, that now, you know what? I thought that's where I want to, no, I want to be like further.
I had a good day, but right. And what I'll add to that is be gentle on yourself, be patient. You're not in a race. You're just running down the road, right? Or just climbing a hill that keeps getting higher, right? But a good day, I wake up early, I spend some time with my kids, have breakfast, work out, make sure I talk to 10 to 15 people, create the content and the touches that work, ensure my team is succeeding in their personal challenges, figure out what growth and, fun I'm going to have along the way. And I say fun because to me, if you're not having fun, your shit's kind of broken.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
totally, man. Totally, bro.
Enjoy it.
Yeah. So Ravi, give me some final words, my man, please. Some, just, I mean, for everything that we have shared today, we got, just a moment here. Give some final words to help everybody out there, get out there, be more positive, be more successful in their own right. Of course, build the mind share so that they could get more market share.
Yeah. So talk to 5 people a day, every day. Number 1. Number 2, figure out what drives you, what makes you feel excited. And then number 3, always have perspective. Make sure that you realize that, what you might be struggling with, somebody's praying for.
Drop the mic. Drop the mic right there, my man. Ravi Singh, everybody. This has been absolutely amazing. It's been enlightening. It's been inspiring. It's been motivating. It has certainly had its roller coaster of emotions in this past 60 minutes we have spent together. And I sincerely thank you for all of the insights you shared today. Tell us where could people find you if they want to connect with you?
Yeah, so I'm pretty heavy on Instagram at Ravi Singh Remax, or at Connexus Group. You can find me there. On all social handles, I'm Ravi Singh Remax. It's the easiest way to find me.
Done. I encourage everybody to go check him out, connect with Ravi. Ravi, once again, a big thank you for making the time for the Mindshare podcast today.
Appreciate it, David. Thank you.
You're either listening to this on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, or Spotify. Or maybe you went to my website, mindshare101.com. And while you're on my site, make sure to download your free copy of the Ultimate Marketing Bundle for Realtors. This is a 31-page ebook packed with a ton of tips and tricks for you. Plus, there's a ready-to-go 90-day social media content calendar to help you build more mindshare so that you get more market share. And you can also grab a copy of our perfect daily planner to help keep you organized day in and day out. Also, if you want to talk about personalized one-to-one coaching, an in-person keynote talk for your upcoming event, and or ongoing virtual training, just get in touch with me. We'll set up a free consultation call, learn more about what you're looking to achieve and how we will help you do just that. Also, don't forget, enter your name in the draw to win free swag by simply leaving a review of this podcast. You can do that at www.ratethispodcast.com/Mindshare101. Connect with me on Facebook at Mindshare101 and on Instagram at David Greenspan101. I want to thank Virginia Munden and the Buzz Conference for sponsoring today's episode. Be sure to check out all the awesome events they are always hosting, along with getting the latest copy of the Buzz digital magazine. Disrupt is happening March 2023, so get your tickets, and we are proud to have the Buzz Conference as an ongoing sponsor of the Mindshare podcast. Of course, I want to thank Kids Keep in Touch Systems for sponsoring today's episode. Remember, you are not marketing properly if you are not using one-to-one marketing. Check it out, mindshare101.com, click on marketing. This has been another episode of the Mindshare podcast. Thank you for tuning in.